Let's kick things off by talking about the golden days of H3H3. Remember when Ethan and Hila first started and their content was fresh and funny? Yeah, neither do I. But hey, credit where credit's due. At least they managed to make a name for themselves in the cesspool that is YouTube. But let's rewind a bit and take a closer look at H3H3's early days. You know, when they were still trying to figure out if they were a comedy duo or just an internet oddity that people couldn't look away from. Ethan's trademark cough was as irritating as nails on a chalkboard, but somehow it became his signature move. Genius, or just plain annoying? You be the judge. Of course, we can't forget about the iconic Vape Nation video. I mean, who doesn't love a good vape meme, right? But looking back, it's like watching a grown man try to be cool in front of teenagers. Oh wait, it's exactly what it was! Yikes. Also, he's 37. Yeah, I didn't know that until I made this video, and I'm kind of depressed. Anyway, and how about the time that they tried their hand at sketch comedy with the modern art video? It was like watching a group of middle schoolers perform a skit they wrote in 5 minutes during a lunch break, but hey, at least they tried something new, right? Speaking of trying new things, H3H3 also dipped their toes into the world of gaming. If you've ever wondered what it'd be like to watch Ethan stumble through a video game like a toddler in tap shoes, then you're in luck. It's almost impressive how they managed to make a universally beloved pastime seem so unappealing. It's no secret that H3H3 was built on reaction videos, and boy did they react to some weird stuff. From kissing breaks to how to clean your gamer gear. It's like they had a sixth sense for finding the most cringeworthy content on the internet. But let's be honest, it takes one to know one, right? In the early days, Ethan and Hila tried their hands at various different video formulas. Remember when they briefly tried to be a news channel? I use the term news very loosely here, as it mostly consisted of Ethan ranting about whatever was the trend that week. Who knew that watching someone read headlines and spout off opinions could be so mind-numbingly entertaining? Anyway, H3 also had a knack for attracting some internet collaborations. They rubbed elbows with the likes of iDubbbz, Filthy Frank, and JonTron, forming a team of cringe avengers that could make even the toughest viewer recoil in discomfort, but also laugh hysterically. It's a very weird feeling. It's like a who's who of internet controversy, and H3H3 was always right there in the thick of it. Let's not forget about their merchandise either. H3H3 offered their loyal fans the chance to wear their cringe on their sleeves, literally. From the infamous Papa Bless shirt to the Teddy Fresh brand, Ethan and Hila made sure their fans could rep their favorite internet personalities in the most eye-catching way possible. After all, who wouldn't want to walk around with a giant Vape Nation logo on their shirt? As we wrap our deep dive into the early days of H3H3 up, it's hard not to feel a strange sense of nostalgia. They were simpler times when the cringe was fresh, and Ethan and Hila were just a couple of internet goofballs trying to make it in the wild world of YouTube. But as we all know, things did take a turn for the darker, and the controversies began to pile up. So let's take a closer look at those scandals, shall we, that rocked the H3H3 world. In their rise to fame, H3H3 Productions amassed an army of fans, but with great power comes great responsibility. Well, not for these two. Let's talk about the countless controversies they've been involved in. With their rise to fame, it's no surprise that they found themselves at the center of numerous controversies. I mean, it's almost like a rite of passage of YouTubers, right? Let's dive into some of the juiciest scandals that Ethan and Hila have been embroiled in. Who could forget the time when H3H3 got into a heated feud with fellow YouTuber, who else? Leafy is here. The internet drama was off the charts, with both sides slinging accusations and insults at each other like they were in a schoolyard brawl, but let's be real, it was less of a battle of wits and more of a cringe fest that left everyone feeling a little dirty. And then there was the time they took on SoFlo Antonio, the notorious Facebook video thief. While it's true that SoFlo's content was the lowest of the low, H3H3's takedown of him felt like watching a bully beat up the class nerd. Sure, the nerd deserved it, but it doesn't make it any less uncomfortable to watch. But wait, there's more. H3H3 also found themselves in hot water when they accused the Wall Street Journal of fabricating evidence against PewDiePie in a now infamous article. Turns out that Ethan's bombshell revelation was based on misunderstanding, which led to a massive backlash and an apology video that was about as fun to watch as Root Canal. Remember when H3H3 decided to take on the world of YouTube pranksters? They spent countless hours dissecting and mocking their content, which led to some entertaining videos, sure, but at the end of the day, it was like watching someone kick a dead horse over and over again. We get it. Prank channels are dumb. Move on already. I can't blame him for milking the cow. Ethan's penchant for inserting himself into the drama didn't stop here, though. He also found himself in a feud with Keemstar, of course, the self-proclaimed king of YouTube drama. The two exchanged heated words, accusations, and even a diss track. If you ever wanted to see these two grown men bicker like teenage girls, this was your chance. One of the most bizarre controversies surrounding H3H3 was their involvement with the mysterious YouTuber Bold Guy. After making a reaction video to one of his cringeworthy parkour videos, H3H3 found themselves slapped with a lawsuit. The legal battle that ensued was like watching a David vs. Goliath showdown if David was an awkward YouTuber and Goliath was an equally awkward parkour enthusiast. Of course, we can't forget the numerous times that H3H3 has been accused of hypocrisy. From their back and forth stance on YouTube drama, to their critiques of other creators while making similar content themselves, it's not hard to see the irony in their actions. But hey, who doesn't love a good dose of double standards? As we wrap up our exploration of these many controversies that plagued H3H3 Productions over the years, it's clear that they've had their fair share of ups and downs. But in true H3H3 fashion, they've always managed to bounce back and find new ways to make us cringe and every now and again be as entertaining as they once were. So let's move on to some of the more memorable moments in their storied history, shall we? Now let's take a stroll down memory lane and revisit some of the most memorable H3H3 moments that left us all wondering if we should laugh, cry, or just shake our heads in disbelief. Ah, the good old days. First up, in an attempt to satirize beauty gurus, H3H3 also created the infamous 100 Layers Challenge video. While it started as a funny take on a ridiculous trend, it quickly devolved into a gooey, sticky mess that was about as enjoyable to watch as a car accident in slow motion. Gotta give it to them. They do make videos you can't look away from sometimes. Let's not forget the time they interviewed the one and only DJ Khaled. It was like watching two awkward teenagers try to chat up a celebrity at a party they weren't invited to. The cringe was palpable, and the secondhand embarrassment was enough to make even the most stoic viewer squirm. One of the most bizarre moments in H3H3's history was their collaboration with the king of YouTube, PewDiePie. The video, which featured the duo playing video games and making increasingly uncomfortable jokes, left viewers wondering if they were watching a comedy sketch or a cry for help. Finally, we have the Cringe Challenge video, where Ethan and Hila watched a compilation of some of the most awkward moments on the internet. But let's be honest, the real cringe was watching them try to make fun of other people's embarrassing moments while seemingly oblivious to their own. So as we wrap up our trip down H3H3's Hall of Shame, it's important to remember that amidst the cringe and controversy, there were also moments that left us laughing and entertained along the way. But as we know, things began to take an even darker turn and the scandals started to pile up even more. So let's dive into the many more controversies that rocked the world of H3H3. It's time to address the elephant in the room. Their transition from quirky comedy duo to full-blown podcasters. I mean, if you thought their videos were cringe-inducing, you ain't seen nothing yet. The birth of the H3 podcast marked a new era for Ethan and Hila. And not necessarily in a good way, I would wager. Suddenly, the people we once knew of for their goofy, offbeat humor were trying to be serious, thought-provoking interviewers. It was like watching a mime try to become a TED Talk speaker. It's just a disaster waiting to happen. One of the most infamous moments in H3 podcast history was their interview with Jordan Peterson, a polarizing figure to say the least. Watching Ethan fumble through an intellectual conversation was like watching a fish trying to climb a tree. Both extremely amusing, but very painful at the same time. And who could forget the time they interviewed Bella Delphine, the notorious internet, provocateur. The cringe was off the charts and Ethan tried to navigate the conversation without making it weird, but it was like watching a car swerving uncontrollably on an icy road. You just knew it was gonna end badly. The H3 podcast has also had its fair share of bizarre moments, like the time Ethan and Hila interviewed a psychic medium who claimed that they could communicate with the dead. It was like watching a train wreck in slow motion, with Ethan doing his best to keep a straight face, while the medium spouted off nonsense. But it wasn't all bad. The H3 podcast did have some entertaining episodes, like the interviews with the legendary Steve-O from Jackass. It was like watching two generations of cringe come together for a beautiful symphony of awkwardness and, well, just like before, we couldn't look away. Over time, the H3 podcast began to focus more on internet drama and less on actual comedy. It was like watching a gossip show hosted by people who were desperately trying to cling on to their fading relevance. The cringe was real, and the entertainment value was dwindling. One of the more frustrating aspects of the H3 podcast was their inability to stick to a consistent schedule. It was like trying to catch a butterfly with a fishing net. Just when you thought you had it, they'd slip through your fingers again. But hey, I guess consistency is overrated, right? As we wrap up our examination of the H3 podcast and its many cringeworthy moments, it's clear that the transition from YouTube comedians to podcast hosts was anything but smooth. But as we know, the story doesn't end here. So let's move on to the next chapter in the H3H3 production saga, where things started to take an even darker turn and the controversies, you guessed it, continued to grow. So as H3H3 continued to evolve, so too did the drama surrounding them. From their questionable business ventures to their falling out with former friends, it seemed like the scandals just kept piling up. But don't worry, we'll make sure to cover it all with juicy details. First, let's talk about the ill-fated merch line, Teddy Fresh. What started as a cute and quirky clothing brand quickly devolved into a series of questionable designs that left us all wondering, who on earth could wear this? I mean, honestly, who wants to walk around looking like a rejected Care Bear? Another darker chapter in the H3 saga was their falling out with their former friends and collaborators like John Tron and iDubbbz. It was like watching a slow-motion car wreck crash again and again and again. They crash a lot of cars, okay? As we all knew, there was no coming back from these broken friendships. The drama was intense and the internet was left to pick sides from the fallout. Speaking of broken friendships, who could forget the infamous feud with Keemstar? As we alluded to earlier, this bitter rivalry played out like a soap opera, with both sides hurling accusations and insults at each other constantly in a never-ending cycle of drama that left us all exhausted and craving something and anything more substantial from these two drama kings. Amidst all the chaos, H3 also found themselves in legal trouble. They were slapped with a copyright lawsuit that dragged on for years, draining both their finances and their spirits. It was like watching a once great gladiator slowly succumb to their wounds, painful and heart-wrenching. But H3H3 didn't just make enemies. They also managed to alienate their fan base. From their inconsistent content to their ever-changing opinions, it seemed like they couldn't decide who they wanted to be. It was like watching a chameleon change colors, only to realize that it was standing on a pile of garbage the whole time. As if all of that wasn't enough, they also faced backlash for their handling of sensitive topics like mental health and addiction. Their flippant and dismissive attitude left many viewers feeling hurt and betrayed, as their once beloved comedy duo was just as flawed as everyone else. Of course, no H3H3 story would be complete without mentioning their bizarre fixation on internet drama. From their lengthy rants about other YouTubers to their endless dissections of petty feuds, it was like watching a train derail and then proceed to crash into every car on the tracks. A beautiful disaster that, once again, we couldn't look away from. As we conclude our exploration of the many twists and turns in the H3 story, it's clear that the journey has been anything but smooth. From their humble beginnings as a quirky comedic duo to their transformation into podcast hosts and drama magnets, it's been a wild ride to say the least. So let's move on to the final chapter in this H3 saga, where we'll discuss their lasting legacy as we embark on this final chapter of H3H3 Productions. It's time to reflect on the impact they've had on the YouTube landscape and consider what the future might hold for them. Will they rise from the ashes of their many controversies, or will they fade into obscurity like so many before them? Let's find out. Love him or hate him, there's no denying that H3H3 Productions has had a significant impact on YouTube. They pioneered a unique brand of offbeat humor and commentary that inspired countless other creators to follow in their footsteps. It's just too bad that those creators often did it better than H3 ever could. In their prime, H3H3 was known for shining a light on the darker corners of the internet, exposing frauds for the world to see. But as their focus shifted from comedy to drama, their legacy became more complicated. It's like watching a once proud superhero turn into a gossip columnist for the New York Times. It's not exactly the transformation we were hoping for. The H3H3 Productions brand has undoubtedly taken a hit over the last few years, with their reputation suffering as a result of their numerous scandals and controversies. It's like watching a once mighty kingdom slowly crumble into ruins. A sad sight indeed. But it's not all doom and gloom for H3H3. Despite their many setbacks, they still maintain a very loyal fan base that continues to support them through thick and thin. I guess there's no accounting for taste, huh? As for the future of H3H3 Productions, well, it remains unclear. Will they continue down their current path of drama and controversy, or will they make a triumphant return to their comedic roots? Only time will tell. But we're not holding our breath. One thing's for sure, H3H3 Productions will always hold a special place in YouTube history. They've left an indelible mark on the platform for better or for worse, and their story serves as a cautionary tale for aspiring creators. If anything, they've shown us that fame and fortune can be a double-edged sword, like many that we've seen before. So as we reach the end of our journey through the twisted world of H3H3, we're left with a mixture of nostalgia, disappointment, and uncertainty. It's been a roller coaster ride, to say the least, and we can only wonder what the next chapter holds for Ethan and Hila. But no matter what the future holds for H3H3, we'll always have the memories, the cringe, the laughter, and the endless drama that made them who they are today. So with that being said, let's raise a glass to H3H3. May their legacy live on, for better or for worse.